A brief accidental gaze makes Lizzie imagine Sasuke as a super hunk. The fluttering feeling spreads like a virus from the office to the entire city. No doubt about it, Lizzie has fallen into the love river, with nothing but love bubbles floating in their mind. Faced with Manager Yu's tasks, Lizzie, thinking of Sasuke, is too excited for resentment, lasting until nightfall. Lizzie eagerly showed Sasuke's photo to the seniors, but they lacked romantic filters. Sasuke seemed incredibly average to them, but the two were still cheerful about helping Lizzie find true love. Since that day, Sasuke's desk has been overflowing with coffee gifts from Lizzie. Even Sasuke's colleagues got the message, but oblivious, Sasuke remains totally clueless. Finally, nudged by colleagues, Sasuke summoned the courage to invite her on a first date. Lizzie, told like a child upon receiving the message, saw sparkling stars in his eyes when meeting Sasuke on Sunday. They strolled through a daycare, where everything looked magical to Lizzie, but they were wearing a pair of fashionable yet impractical shoes. With their ankles sore and red from walking, Lizzie cautiously asked Sasuke if they needed a break. The answer? A firm no, and so Lizzie marched on with achy feet for a whole afternoon. Until the sunset set the stage for a dazzling fireworks show, the two stood in the chilly wind gazing mesmerized, with Lizzie totally engrossed in this. Despite some hiccups, Lizzie still considered it a fantastic date, although they conveniently skipped over some awkward moments when telling friends. However, those sore spots still ached, and from that day on, Lizzie dreamed of going on an adventure. But their travel enthusiasm was dampened by a few pesky realities. When sharing about that date with friends, Lizzie would selectively forget some awkward moments, while the ache in their feet. Since that day, they officially became a couple, frequently going out together, and Lizzie gradually noticed that Sasuke's eating style was a bit unrefined, and sometimes he would oddly sniff his fingers on the street. When shopping, he seemed totally unimpressed by whatever Lizzie bought, but to Lizzie, they were just little quirks. Lizzie seemed to have forgotten what initially attracted them to Sasuke, but the two seniors had already caught on to this little dilemma. After yoga class, Sing Sing bluntly told Lizzie that they were just pretending to be a happy girlfriend, much like acting as a model employee at work. On this shopping day with Sasuke, Lizzie sought fun in clothes, but Sasuke just nodded lacklusterly at whatever she pointed to. Every feedback felt rather sketchy, and Lizzie couldn't resist turning and leaving. Pretending to be a happy employee was tough, but pretending to be a happy girlfriend. At this point, Lizzie tried figuring out their emotional state while their work life was a chaotic mess. Supervisor Cow and Manager Snake had to take unexpected days off, and the workload for everyone spiked suddenly. Manager Yu first revealed his extraordinary skills of placing everyone using computers with an abacus. But Lizzie, lacking experience, was utterly useless, and the only thing they could contribute was making tea in the break. Love is filled with trivial matters, and work feels overwhelming. Lizzie felt like they were stuck in a quagmire of life. Just then, Manager Yu walked in, but rather than criticizing or making Lizzie do menial tasks after brewing coffee, he suddenly mentioned recent work, emphasizing accounting's importance. One mistake could trigger a domino effect. In other words, once a mistake is made, no amount of effort later can salvage it. Then Manager G switched gears, further elaborating that perhaps not all individuals are inherently bad, yet this does not necessarily imply that they are suitable romantic partners. After much deliberation, Lizzie finally took Sasuke to the karaoke place, and this time they no longer pretended to be a happy girlfriend, instead revealing their not-so-perfect side, yet Sasuke remained entirely out. In that moment, Lizzie felt relief in dropping pretenses, realizing they were just ordinary. I'm back, which is obviously a fact. Snowy didn't absorb Lizzie's explanation at all. The upcoming calls became a jumble due to nerves. Yet Lizzie patiently guided Snowy on how to answer calls. As a newcomer, the skill was vital. After the training, Lizzie even took Snowy to the karaoke place, constantly explaining, all while reiterating his points until late at night when he finally returned home feeling drained. Once home, Lizzie barely hit the pillow when they received an email from Snowy, instantly wide awake. They couldn't comprehend how merely such a simple sentence could elicit such an intense reaction from Snowy, and even when they answered the calls on his behalf, it felt as though they were depriving him of his rights. Suddenly, Lizzie was left speechless, realizing how vastly different people's understandings can be. Lizzie spent the entire night awake, unsure of how to write a reply. The next day, when Lizzie saw Snowy, she was still beaming, greeting Lizzie warmly. Lizzie genuinely felt like her workplace bully, yet despite this, she still had to summon her courage and toughen up to work alongside Snowy. Meanwhile, Snowy still showed no improvements, and Lizzie couldn't hold back their thoughts. Wanting to say something, Rika was instantly rendered speechless and at a loss for words when Snowy pulled out a voice recorder. Tried to voice thoughts to Lizzie, but ended in silence.